that game just based off experience, and I thought the momentum they garnered from their Game 7 blowout over the Clippers would carry over with just that one off day. I thought it would carry over into Game 1 in Oklahoma City. That turned out to be true. Now, if you were listening to the show today, I didn't think the Nuggets were going to win this game tonight, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back for predicting the first two games, but that's just what it felt like to me was going to happen in the first two games. Now, look, the Nuggets pulled out a pretty improbable win in Game 1, a game that they should have lost, but they didn't. And tonight, the Oklahoma City Thunder punched back. And it was interesting because before the game, interim head coach David Adelman talked about how they were expecting to get punched in the mouth tonight to start this basketball game. And not just once, he said multiple times. And he said, we're going to have to be able to, respond and punch back. Well, he was right about getting punched in the mouth to start this game. I mean, the first 6 minutes, quite honestly, you could tell this thing was basically over with how this thing went. You had Nikola Jokic missing bunnies that he normally makes. It was one of those games where it seemed like almost every single shot that a Thunder player took looked like it was going in. And that's just what happened throughout the game. So the first 6 minutes of this game, I thought was,
Game 3's a new game.
quite a tell
How valuable is it
on this. So, it's going to be an interesting response to see what they do. All right, looks like we got DMac on the show who is popping on. DMac, can you hear me? And just your thoughts on game number 2 there in OKC.
Oh, it's humiliating. It was embarrassing. I get it. Got you. But it was embarrassing early. It stayed embarrassing. Yeah, I don't know. Michael Porter Jr. can't rebound, Dan. He can't raise his arm. I mean, he can't do anything. I really, at this point, don't know why he's playing in the games.
Well, this is what I said after game 1, DMac.
I'm with you, but I never thought about, and I'm watching D.A. Adelman afterwards, and he's making points that I didn't think of, that it's not just the shooting, which is terrible, but he can't go strong after rebounds either. So, and the plus minuses are, the Nuggets must have set so many records for futility. It's got to be unbelievable. I know it was Jokic's largest plus minus in the minus territory ever. I know a team has never given up as many points at halftime in the NBA playoff history as the Nuggets did. I mean, they were, DA did say, they did have a bunch of open shots that they missed, and that's probably true, but this team didn't look like they cared that much about playing tonight, Dan. It was get out the thesaurus for embarrassing and just rattle them off, because that's what it was.
Well, it's funny.
Doesn't mean the season's over, the series is over or anything like that. But you had, I mean, that was terrible. It was awful.
Yeah, no doubt. I will push back a little bit on them seeming like they didn't care. DMac, I thought they looked like they cared. I really do think they just couldn't hit any open shots tonight. And early on in the game, Nikola Jokic is missing shots he makes 9 times out of 10, 90 times out of 100. And when that's happening early on in games, this game was over after the Nuggets called their first timeout, basically. I mean, you could just tell that's where this game was going. And, DMac, before the game, I was just talking about before you came on, Adelman said, we're fully expecting to get punched in the mouth to start this game multiple times, and it's up to these guys to punch back and regroup. So they were expecting this. The problem for the Nuggets is they just were not able to punch back even once tonight. I mean, not even once.
Yeah, Dagnall in his presser, I was watching that. In the beginning, there was some smarmy Oklahoma City reporter was like, so I guess we're done talking about foul up by 3, huh? And that was just their smarmy way to say, yeah, we're the Oklahoma City Thunder. We usually destroy teams like tonight. That's who we are, really. And that is true. They don't play a lot of close games. they jump on you and they tend to put teams away. That's what they've done the whole season. So they're much more comfortable just building that lead and blowing you off the face of the earth. But I don't think they're unstoppable. I just listen. Here's where I say the degree that you hustled back and got back on defense, and I get it. There were a lot of missed shots in the beginning, a lot. But I don't think that effort was there either, Dan. If you think it was, fine. But I don't know. I think they. I don't think it was there. I guess I disagree with you respectfully. I don't think they put out the full effort, especially defensively, when they could have and they should have. So it's disappointing. Disappointing.
Yeah, very disappointing. Let me ask you this. Sure. I was surprised, quite honestly, with Adelman's decision in the second half. Like, I get putting the starters back out there to start the third quarter. Okay, he was asked about it after the game. You know, these guys have pride. I get it. But at some point, you're the head coach. You've got to make these decisions. The fact that the starters were in for as long as they were honestly shocked me. With a team that just went through a 7-game series, had 1 day off, first playoff game in OKC, 1 day off, second playoff game, against a team that just had 9 days off leading up to this series.
Yeah.
I disagreed with Adelman's decision to keep the starters plus Russ in there as long as he did. I thought that was
I'll give you this. They just didn't give you the best chance to win either. Like, I mean, just never mind the fact that, there might be, bigger fish to fry down the line. The game's over. They just weren't very good. The starters, the guys you were playing. I mean, it was weird. You may as well have seen as what you could get out of Hunter Tyson and Zeke Najee, Dan. Seriously.
Yeah, and honestly, and Peyton Watson showed some pretty good effort, I thought, late in the game there. Like, those guys were playing hard.
Yeah, you could have lost by 50 tonight. You could have. I mean, I guess you what did they lose? 43? I mean, that's better than 50, I guess. It's just humiliating top to bottom. Every part of this is unbelievably humiliating. So we did talk about it earlier in the day. Like, hey, man, don't be surprised if a blowout happens. That could easily happen. Being in the same town for a bunch of days. We talked about that too, didn't we, Dan? Like, you kind of got what you came there for. You got your game, and now you're just hanging out in Oklahoma City. And Adelman had him, yesterday. He didn't want him playing Minecraft and watching Netflix. That's a direct quote. And I'm going to say they played Minecraft. They figured out Minecraft. They went to the Minecraft movie. The team dinner didn't work. This to me just seemed like a tired team that was sick of being on the road for this one. They did what they wanted to do. I don't think it's got anything to do with what's going to happen in game 3. So to your point, I'll go with you on your point. Yeah, playing those guys. What are we doing there? What exactly are we doing? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And DA said that they had a look in their eyes that they wanted to come out and play in the second half. And I'm like, okay, all right.
I got to see that look.
Yeah.
I've got to see a picture of that look. That must have been a peering look.
Yeah, DA was very kind of adamant about how they really wanted to come out and play. And I'm like, okay, I'll take your word for it, but it didn't look like it. And then Troy Rank asked him if Jokic just fouled out on purpose.
Oh, he definitely did.
DA said no. He shot that down. He was just,
Sure. But in my mind, as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, he did that on purpose. And honestly, I don't blame him. That was the right move. And Vic agreed with me because right after I thought that, he tweeted it out. He's like, I guarantee you, Joker just got that 6th foul on purpose to get out of the game. I mean, come on, man. He had 2 offensive fouls back-to-back on basically back-to-back possessions, and he's not doing that on purpose. For a guy as smart as Joker is.
Yeah, he should have been, you're right. He should have been pulled from the game long before that. Whether he did it on purpose, it might have been like, I don't know. I mean, we can split hairs about I was just playing hard. I didn't do it on purpose, whatever.
Sure.
But But I mean, how many points were they down, Dan, in the third quarter? I mean, when you're down by 45, dude, I think it's done.
Anywhere
I think
between
that's a
40
wrap.
and 50 throughout the entirety of the third quarter,
The,
DMac,
the game's
for the most
over.
part.
And when the game's over, it doesn't matter if you lose by 60. And all that really matters is you give your guys that you're going to lean on Friday, you give them some rest. So, hey, we've been pretty complimentary of David Adelman, and he should take a couple of raised eyebrows or shots. And I'm sure listeners and text line or whatever, I don't know. I would guess that we'll get some support on that one, but it's weird, man. But it's not like they didn't deal with it against the Clippers too, Dan. They got smoked by the Clippers in game 3. That happened too.
They did. Not like this, but you're
Not
right.
like this. Not
They
like
did.
this. Not like not like this.
DMac, this is just my take. I think the Nuggets should start Peyton Watson and bring Michael Porter Jr. off the bench coming up for game 3.
Yeah.
I
can't disagree with you.
With this caveat, okay? Because this was kind of my thing tonight. I said, if Michael in the first quarter looks like he's struggling like he did in game 1, DA should pull him. He struggled, but now granted the whole team did, so it was kind of hard to differentiate. But if he did, he needed to pull him and bring either Strother or Peyton Watson in for Michael pretty much for the rest of the game. I think Peyton Watson should start.
I agree with you.
I think Peyton should start game 3, bring Michael in off the bench. And if Michael's producing when he does get in there, well, then you can revisit how many minutes he plays then. But I would like to see them make that change coming up for game 3. His shoulder, man, it's just so obvious. He has so many limitations right now.
Yeah, not only can he not shoot, this is different than being in a slump, by the way. This is a guy who's hurt.
Exactly.
And this is a guy who's hurt, so I'm not going to dump all over Michael Porter Jr. I give him credit for being courageous enough to try to get out there when he obviously is injured. And the proof of the pudding about his injury isn't just that his shot's terrible, which it is that he cannot play defense and rebound the way he has. And that is very common. When he's having a bad shooting night, you can try to make up for it on some other end of the court. Well, he can't do that. So if he can't rebound effectively, he can't shoot effectively, I don't know why he's playing. Seriously, I don't know what the point is. And if you don't need him defensively and you can sort of get up some shots off the bench because you don't really care as much about defense, maybe you get some threes and you get some scoring off the bench. Actually, what you say makes a ton of sense. And I think we're there. And it sucks. I don't want to see him hurt, but my God, I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, and that was my whole point all along. I've praised Michael for the physical and mental toughness he's displayed throughout these playoffs, dealing with that shoulder injury and giving it a go. And look, there actually have been some games, we talked about this today, DMac, in the Clippers series where Michael struggles. He scores 5 points in game 3, but he did have some games in that series where he was able to sort of bounce back. He pours in, 15 points and 12 rebounds or whatever it was. So he can do it, but my point the whole time was it's not because he's struggling, it's because he's hurt, and it's obvious how much it's limiting him on the court. That's been my whole thing with Michael this whole time.
Well, here's what Adelman said. Adelman said after the game that he was one of the reasons, and it's a small silver lining, that Michael saw a couple of buckets go in the second half, and that's a good thing, and that can move forward to the next game. Listen, we can advocate for what we think is best, but he's going to start. He's going to start. I think you're right, so I'm not disagreeing with you. But when I see Adelman and hear him say, well, he got a better flow because he did play and he made some buckets in the second half, and I mean that to me is code for he'll be better once we get back to town for the game on Friday. But Joker was terrible too, by the way, tonight.
Mm-hmm.
He stunk. 17 points, minus 36, plus minus. Christian Brown, minus 40. I mean, there's some freaking ugly numbers here, dude. Ugly, embarrassing numbers to go with this one.
You know what surprised me most about Joker tonight was I can't remember a game where Joker got out-physicaled in the painted area like he did tonight. And, Adelman mentioned that after the game too. He's like, once we realized the refs were kind of letting stuff go, by that point it was too late. So that was what I think one of my biggest takeaways from tonight's game was not the fact that the Nuggets got out physicaled. It was by how much they got out physicaled. And going into the series, I thought, and I still do think this actually, but I thought that was one of the Nuggets' bigger advantages against this Oklahoma City Thunder team. So that's what was really shocking to me tonight, was just the physicality in which Oklahoma City dominated this game. Really, really surprised me.
Yeah, Jokic had 6 turnovers tonight. The team had 21. They had 18 in game 1. And that's why I was like, how the hell did they win game 1 with 18 turnovers? Excuse me. Well, tonight they had 21 turnovers and gave up 34 points off 21 turnovers. My God. They were outscored points in the paint 52-28. Fast break points, they were outscored 26-5. Dan, this is unbelievable. I mean, this isn't the Nuggets team. What was that out there? I mean, that was I don't know, bro, but that is unreal. The largest lead for Oklahoma City was 49, Dan.
49.
It finished at 40. It finished at 43. My God.
And how about points in the paint too, DMac? The Nuggets scored 28.
28-52.
I mean,
28-52.
And that's an area where the Nuggets typically dominate basketball games, is the painted area, because they shoot the fewest amount of threes of any team in the NBA. They have to dominate in the paint. So look, if you're getting outscored by that much in the painted area, I mean, that's I'm looking at, like you said, turnovers. Number one, they've got to figure out a way to limit their turnovers in game 3. And then also they've got to get back to dominating the painted area, because the Thunder are going to win the 3-point battle in this series. But the Nuggets have to win the paint battle.
Yeah, I mean, it's 45-21 after the first quarter. I mean, the game was over in the first quarter. You're down 24 points at the end of one? What?
They made 2 field goals in the first 6.5 minutes of the game. 2.
Yeah, that's even a better point. The game was over after the first 6.5 minutes.
They made 2 field goals in the first 6.5 minutes. I mean,
Dan, this game was so bad that I turned it off to watch the Rockies lose in extra innings, which they did.
Yeah, I saw that. And then I saw also during the game, Mikko Rantanen got a second period hat trick and the Stars win over the Jets.
Did he Are you serious?
Yeah,
Did
the
he
Stars
really?
won 3-2. The Stars won 3-2.
And Mikko had a hat trick.
And Mikko had a hat trick in the second period. Back-to-back games where he's had a hat trick in one period.
Wow.
Yeah, not a fun night for Denver sports.
How's that trade looking? Okay. Didn't know that. Thanks for the ray of sunshine.
Yeah. But looking at this optimistically, and I know this is going to be everybody's point, but I think it's a fair point.
It's just one game, right?
They did get a win in Oklahoma City. And you can call that game a fluke win or whatever the hell you want. They got the win. So
you're right.
They're coming back. And you said earlier that you don't think tonight's result, correct me if I'm wrong, will have any bearing on game 3, right?
I don't think so, no.
And I agree with you, by the way.
Yeah, and don't forget the Nuggets got blown out by the Clippers and then in game 3 and then came back and won game 4. And sometimes games just you lose, and the score is meaningless because it just gets bizarrely out of hand because the game was just over so early, which it was. So no, I don't think it has much to do with game 3. I don't think the Thunder figured something magical out. I don't think they surprised the Nuggets with anything. They just played better. They played better early on. The Nuggets were asleep at the switch. It was like what Chris Finch said, the lights were out.
Yeah. For
Anthony Edwards at certain points during the game against the Warriors. Well, somebody hit the snooze on the Nuggets for the 6 minutes, and the wake up call didn't come at time, and the game was over.
Yeah.
And that's how good they are. You can't fall asleep at the switch, but there's no chance that the Nuggets fall asleep at the switch like that at home. So yeah, okay, I'll write it off and be whatever. The disappointing thing to me was if you could have really taken advantage of things. And how about the Knicks? Oh my God, the Celtics! What a choke job that was.
Two
Are
in a
you
row
kidding
choke
me?
jobs. Two in a row.
Unbelievable. And I was just like, oh man, like if the Nuggets could get that 2-0 lead, wouldn't that be something on Friday night? And now, hey man, get ready. There's no promises for anything. To me, if the Nuggets could have won this, they would have won the series. And I said earlier they'd win the NBA Finals if they could have won this game. By getting blown out, everything's questionable. Everything is questionable. Nothing is guaranteed, and it's just a little bit of a bummer because it would have been nice to sort of have that in your back pocket. But okay, everybody thought this was going to be a difficult series, Dan. So here we are. It's a difficult series.
Yeah, I'll go as far as saying I don't think the Nuggets can win this series if they don't win Game 3. If you go down 2-1 to the Thunder, that's going to be a very tall task to overcome. Just with the injuries on this team, the lack of rest. Now, if they get Game 3, I think they have a pretty good shot at it. So, man, talk about an important game coming up on Friday. I'm telling you, I think Game 3 is going to be the pivotal game in this series as far as determining who ultimately wins this thing.
I'll roll with you. I guess I'm not that pessimistic, but you'll lose your home court advantage that you now have, and we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it makes everything a lot more challenging, a lot more interesting, more grist for the mill, as they say, and there'll be a lot of people who probably tonight and tomorrow are just like, there you go. That's the Nuggets I was expecting. That's blah blah blah. You'll see a lot of that over the next couple of days.
Sure. All right, DMac, any final thoughts on this blowout loss for the Nuggets before you go, or do you just want to get out of here and go to bed? Which I
want to get out of here and go to bed. And I'll just let you know, in extra innings, Trejo ran into Jordan Beck while Jordan Beck was trying to catch a pop-up that led to a run that the Tigers won in 10 innings. We had our shortstop run into our left fielder. Listen, these are the details that I was trying to watch during that. That's how bad things were. Tonight was so bad.
I know.
There was moments I was like, well, the Rockies, what are they up to? But whatever, man. It's just one game. You're right. It's tied up. It's a brand new series, Dan. It's best 3 out of 5. That's all it is. It's best 3 out of 5. Can you win 3 out of 5 against the Oklahoma City Thunder with home court advantage, brother? That's the question.
Yeah, with potentially 3 of those 5 being at home. So there you go.
That's right. Yes.
All right, DMac. Thanks for jumping on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, there he goes. DMac on with me to discuss the Nuggets blowout loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you want to text in, the Shop Mazda text line's wide open for you, 303-504-0925. If you want to weigh in on the loss, what are you expecting for Game 3? What adjustments would you like to see in Game 3? You already heard one of mine. I would start Peyton Watson for Michael Porter Jr. Now, no, I'm not advocating to not play Michael at all in Game 3. All I'm saying is start Peyton Watson and then bring Michael in off the bench and then just sort of test the waters with Michael Porter Jr. and see how it's looking and working with him on the floor. And if it looks good, then run him, keep him out there. But if he looks like he has so far in the first 2 games of this series, I think David Adelman is going to have to make an executive decision to pull Michael until he can show in some way that he is able to positively impact this team when he's out there. Because the simple fact of the matter is when he's out on the floor right now, he is hurting this team. There's no doubt about it. So, and look, I get it. He's injured, and that's why I'm saying Peyton Watson should start Game 3. So let me know your thoughts, 303-504-0925. We'll hit a quick break. When we come back, we'll dig deeper into the Nuggets loss to the Thunder tonight and what's coming up in games 3 and 4 as this series shifts back to the Mile High City. That's next. It is the second round of the playoffs, and Altitude Sports Radio is stepping up the game. Tune in on Friday for your chance to win tickets to Game 3 or Game 4. Keywords on the 20s every hour. And be listening for your name to call and win your tickets. That's Friday on your home for the Nuggets, Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Welcome back to In the Paint right here on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Nuggets get blown out in Game 2 of the Western Conference semis against the Oklahoma City Thunder. 149-106 is the final. Nikola Jokic had his worst plus-minus in his career. He was a minus 36 tonight. You know, this was a little bit of a surprise to me tonight, Jamal Murray's performance, just because it felt like this was the game where Jamal was going to go off. You know, you had Shaquille O'Neal sort of calling him out after their game 1 win, saying, hey, man, you only shot 6 for 16. You've got to be better if this team wants to win another championship. And Jamal said, hey, man, I agree with you. I do need to be better, and I will be better. I still do think that game is in the cards at some point in this series for Jamal Murray. He's good for at least one of those classic playoff Jamal Murray type of games, and I think that will happen at some point in this series. Now the question just becomes, what game will that be? Is it going to be coming up on Friday night? First game back home, Game 3, Sunday in Game 4. You know, who knows? But the fact of the matter is that Jamal Murray has to be better in order for this team to get over the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, I don't want to just sit here and call out Jamal, because nobody outside of Russell Westbrook had a good game tonight for the Denver Nuggets. In fact, Russ, I thought not only in the first half, but throughout this game, was the Nuggets' best offensive option throughout the game. And I will give Russ some credit. He was trying his hardest to fire this team up. He was getting into it with officials. He was getting into it with Thunder players. There was that play in the first half where Joker gets pushed a little bit on a foul call, and Russ didn't like it. He runs over and Joker, look, he was just like, yeah, whatever, not a big deal. But you could tell that Russ was trying to light a fire under his guys throughout this game. And I actually really appreciate that about Russell Westbrook. I think that's one of his greatest qualities, actually. He was getting into it with some of the fans there in Oklahoma City. I mean, he was getting into it with some dude in the 5th row in the second half of this game, John, with fans. It was pretty funny seeing the Thunder crowd give Russ a standing ovation the first time he got on the court. What a different story tonight in that building, because that crowd was booing him relentlessly. So, okay, game 1, Russ, we'll applaud you. Now you're the enemy again, I guess is how the Thunder fans are feeling. And, probably rightfully so. But I do appreciate that from Russ tonight. And like I said, I mean, in my opinion, he was far and away their best player tonight. No doubt about it. This was one of the poorest performances I've seen from Nikola Jokic in a long, long time. In fact, I don't even remember a game in which Joker struggled as much as he did. Minus 36. That's a career worst. Now, Christian Brown was a minus 40. And speaking of one of the worst games I've seen from a player in quite some time, this was definitely one of CB's worst games I have seen over the last couple of years. It was definitely his worst game this season. I mean, he was 1 of 6 shooting tonight, just 1 of 4 from 3, 2 rebounds, no assists, no steals, 1 block, couple of turnovers, 3 points. So between your starting backcourt, between Jamal Murray and Christian Brown, combined for 17 points. And then your starting forwards combined for 18. That's just a recipe for disaster. So I don't think the Thunder are going to be making any sort of adjustments throughout this series. In fact, that was one of the things that I thought Mark Daigneault should be praised for in game 2 is the fact that the Thunder didn't make any adjustments in game 2. He said, look, at least I'm summarizing here, or at least this is what I believe he's thinking, that game 1 was an anomaly. We're the better team. We don't need to change anything. Well, he was sure right about that tonight because they made 0 adjustments and they blew out the Denver Nuggets. I do disagree with DMac a little bit earlier on, saying he didn't think the Nuggets played hard tonight. I actually thought they did. They just weren't hitting any shots. And inversely, the Thunder were hitting everything. Now, the defensive end needs to be cleaned up. But I got to be honest with you. I'm not super shocked that the Nuggets had this type of defensive performance against this team. You shouldn't be shocked that the Nuggets, now 149, okay, little surprising, but the Nuggets defense has not been good all year. They've been good in clutch time situations. In a close game with under 5 minutes to go, they seem to have the ability to figure that out, as we saw the other night in game 1. But nobody out there listening should be surprised that the Nuggets defense is struggling in this series. Their defense wasn't all that great in the first round either against the Clippers. But in game 1, the Nuggets offense was just good enough to get them the win. Tonight, it just wasn't. And like I said, you could tell this game was over in the first 6.5 minutes. They made 2 field goals in the first 6.5 minutes, where in those 6.5 minutes, Nikola Jokic is missing wide open shots. Christian Brown misses a wide open 3. Jamal Murray misses a wide open 3. Everybody was missing wide open shots to start this game for Denver, and the Thunder were hitting what seemed like every single one of theirs. So, look, game 3, I really do think this sort of starts over. Like, I don't think there will be any lingering aftershocks from this blowout loss. But I will say, you've got to figure out a couple of things. Jamal Murray has got to be better. No question about it. If he can't be the playoff Jamal that we've seen with him in this team before, they don't have a shot. Now, if he can give this team a 30-point game and a 40-point game, they have a chance, a very good chance. And then the other thing is, like I said earlier, you better find out quickly in game 3 coming up on Friday night if Michael Porter Jr. has any chance of helping this basketball team win the game. Because if not, I would hope that David Adelman yanks him very quickly. Now, I don't think he should start game 3. I think it should be Peyton Watson. But like DMac said earlier, I would be shocked if that was the actual card that Adelman decides to play. So if Adelman does start Michael, I'm talking in the first 4 minutes of game 3. You better know if Michael is going to be helping or hurting you on that night. So we'll see. Tough loss for the Denver Nuggets tonight. 149-106 is your final. We'll hit one final timeout when we come back. I do want to hear a little bit from the beginning of David Adelman. If you were listening to Birdo's Network post game, we got into Adelman about halfway through. So we'll play a couple of minutes of what he had to say to start his press conference, and then we'll give you some final thoughts on the Nuggets blowout loss to the Thunder. That's next right here on In the Paint. Lock in your 4-game pick'em plan for the 2025-26 season, starting at just $100. Choose your games and seats, save on fees, and get 2025 playoff priority access. Secure your plan today and don't miss the biggest moments at Ball Arena. Visit nuggets.com/pick'em to purchase. Welcome back to In the Paint right here on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Thunder blow out the Nuggets in Game 2, 149-106. The whole team struggled tonight outside of Russell Westbrook. Christian Brown had a really rough night, 1 of 6 shooting, 3 points. Jamal was 4 of 9, although he did go 3 for 5 from 3. Not terrible with 14. Joker had one of his worst games in a long, long time, just 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. How would you like it if that was one of your worst games in a long time? 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. There's a lot of NBA players that would love to average that stat line. So that just kind of goes to show you what kind of tear Nikola Jokic has been on over the last decade. Michael Porter Jr. obviously still hampered with that injured left shoulder. He shoots just 2 of 10 from the field, 2 of 8 from 3, 8 points. And then Aaron Gordon, after hitting the game winner in Game 1, hit his first 3-pointer and actually went 2 of 3, but just shot 3 of 12 overall from the field, 5 rebounds, assist, a block, and 10 points for Aaron Gordon. How is AG feeling after the blowout loss? He spoke to the media in the locker room after the game.
Coach said you guys were reactionary and kind of climbing uphill, if you will. How do you respond in Game 3 to their physicality?
Well, we got to come out with a better mindset, set the tone. Understand that's what they're looking to do is, kind of like impose their will. So can't allow them to do that.
From a fundamental basketball standpoint, what's the biggest concern in terms of things you need to fix for Game 3?
Yeah, just owning your spot. That's part of fundamentals. Using a little bit of deception, like V cuts, L cuts. Taking them lower than you need to go to get to the spot on the floor. So just setups in general, I think that's going to contribute to fundamentals. Ball screening is going to be important. Rip throughs, just back to basics.
Coach said he didn't want to flush this one. How do you use this as motivation?
Well, honestly, no loss feels good. Not entirely sure.
How can you draw on experience, whether it was the loss to the Clippers in Game 3 or last year some tough playoff losses, and showing y'all can bounce back? Can you draw on that experience, I guess?
Sure. I like the way this team responds, so I'm excited for Game 3.
How do you get them off of Jokic from being so physical? Is that as teammates, can you do that through schemes and picks and ways to get them away from him a little bit?
Yeah, you can, but if they're gonna let them push them and shove them, like 2 hands on them, root them out with the knee, you got elbows and all types of stuff they're doing to them that's not necessarily legal. There's not much that you can do. Got to play through it. If they're not going to call it, then they're not going to call it. But, yeah, we can help hit them, but, they're fouling the guy.
You were one of the guys who were kind of arguing that 5th call, that one that Jalen kind of backed into him and they reviewed it. What did you see there?
Yeah, they're calling the 2nd foul almost every time. They're fouling Joker first, and then Joker's reactionary, and they do get the 2nd guy a lot of the times. But they're fouling him, point blank period throughout the game. And it's a thing where, you can't call every foul, or you'd be calling a foul every single play. But they're fouling him. I also mentioned a joke. You got to play through it. He got to play through it. He got to be stronger, be more physical. All of us do. We all got to play through it because, they're not going to call a foul every single play. Yeah, it's a very handsy team.
That's not the first team that's tried to do that to him, though, right?
No, but they're letting a lot go.
How beneficial will it to have Game 3 and 4 at home now, and taking that first one here?
Very important. Very important. Obviously, we didn't like the outcome of this game, but we did what we came here to do, and that was get home court.
What have you seen from DA in terms of how he's handled or addressed the team after the 2 big losses this postseason?
DA's been excellent.
Was there as to you guys not wanting to play in the third quarter? Or did you guys want to be out there even with the margin where it was at that point?
No, we didn't think about that.
How much does Russ mean to you guys against a team like this that extends pressure and, having a guy that can just kind of get downhill on a straight line?
Huge. Russ has been huge for us all year long, so we expect him to continue to play that way.
And can you describe the mental toughness, the mental fortitude that it takes to be able to keep your composure and play through that physicality?
Yeah, absolutely. In a game you get smoked by 40, it's not the referees, it's not the officiating. So we got to forget about that in the first place. So we just need to continue to execute, be sharp, be strong. And just focus on our game.
All right, there's Aaron Gordon in the locker room after the Nuggets get blown out by the Thunder, 149-106. Some interesting comments there from AG. He said David Adelman's been excellent in the locker room after both of their blowout losses in these playoffs so far. Obviously, the first one in Game 3 against the Clippers, and then tonight there in Oklahoma City. But, AG was at the end there, said, look, in a game you get smoked by 40, it's not the referees, it's not the officiating, so we've got to forget about that in the first place. We just need to continue to execute, be sharp, be strong. That was Aaron Gordon. He did kind of mention earlier, though, that, this team is very handsy, he put it, talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Joker is getting beat up down low in the post. And, this isn't anything new. Teams do this all the time to Nikola Jokic. Now, how referees officiate it changes. There's no doubt about that. But this isn't anything new for the Nuggets. They'll make that adjustment, I'm sure, coming up in Game 3. And, they're just going to have to find a way. If Joker's not getting those calls when teams are getting super physical, super aggressive with him, they're just going to have to figure out a way to get past that. And you know what? What I would say is, well, if they're not going to call it, then the Nuggets better be just as, if not more physical on their defensive end of the floor. If they're not calling it, they're not calling it. So that was one of my biggest takeaways tonight. Like I said earlier with DMac, was just how out physical the Nuggets got tonight. That was the most surprising thing to me, at least in this game. But, like AG just said, like I said earlier, they did get a win in OKC. The series is tied up. The Nuggets still have home court advantage, and they're traveling back to the Mile High City for games 3 and 4 coming up on Friday and Sunday. That's going to do it for the post-game show tonight, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Game 3, we will be back for post-game coverage after the Nuggets take on the Thunder in the Mile High City. You have been listening to In the Paint right here on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.